The big question is, has the finance minister done enough to avoid a downgrade to junk status? Kenneth Creamer from the Wits School of Economics joins me via our Skype line now. Good afternoon to you, Kenneth. Thanks for your time this morning. Moody's certainly seems to think that the finance minister could have done more.
Hi, good afternoon. Well, I think, Kathy, that the good news is that a plan has been laid out in the budget, which would indicate that if we're able to stick to that plan, we should be able to avoid a downgrade. And I think that is the big challenge that the Minister of Finance has tried to meet. That would be the thing that has kept him awake at night. And the entire purpose of this budget would be to avoid a downgrade. I think he's done it by dishing out a bit of pain for us. We would have basically a speeding up of the fiscal consolidation, which has been promised by the previous finance ministers. The cutting back of expenditure has been accelerated. The amount of tax that is going to be taken out of the economy has also been accelerated. And the planned borrowing has been decreased. So I think enough has been done. Obviously, the rating agencies would like to see more being done. But I don't think that should be the real test. I think the test should be that we avoid increasing our national debt to above that kind of benchmark of the late 40s or 50% of our GDP. So yes, I think enough has been done as long as what is planned is in fact done.
When we look at part of the response, as you mentioned there from ratings agency Moody's, they say that the budget had not specifically identified the revenue measures to achieve smaller deficits. I mean, where are the pockets, where are the loopholes rather that you believe exist in the finance minister's budget speech that perhaps may leave us still in a fragile position?
Yes, I did read, I took a brief look at that Moody's report, Kathy, and that's only one sentence that you're quoting from the report. I think it broadly, in my opinion, when I interpret what it's saying, it is broadly of the view that we can avoid a downgrade as South Africa. I think that it does point out
All right, we seem to have lost our Skype line to Kenneth Creamer there. He's a senior lecturer at the Wits University School of Economic and Business Sciences. Well, I understand we actually have him back on the line. Kenneth, please let me know if you can hear me. Do you think that where we stand currently in terms of the response that we're getting from ratings agencies, that the stability that was needed has been granted from the finance minister's speech?
Yes, I'm not sure what you heard before the break, but basically what I was saying was I took a brief look at that report by Moody's, and I think in general they are of the view that we will avoid a downgrade as South Africa, but they do point out that there could have been different taxation mechanisms adopted by the minister. And I think the minister has chosen to avoid taxation mechanisms which will hurt poor people, and he's avoided taxation that will slow down investment and growth as far as possible. So he's quite wisely focused on the fuel levy during a time of low fuel prices. And he's looked at some wealth taxes in the form of capital gains and high estate duties. So hopefully that will bring in the resource of, I think, an extra 18 billion or so that he's aiming at. Possibly Moody's would have liked to see a more broadly based increase in VAT or a broadly based increase in personal income tax. But I think the minister has chosen not to go that route. Yet he still hopes to raise the tax revenue through the route he has taken.
Kenneth, of course, one of the big issues also that has always been raised around the finance ministry, particularly where we've seen changes in leadership in that department, has been the consistency of policy. When you look at what was said, I mean, the finance minister really setting a plan for the next 3 years. Was that enough to kind of give foreign investors specifically the confidence that they need around the consistency that we'll have in terms of policy?
Yes, I think the first priority for Pravin Gordhan now, in the return of Pravin Gordhan as finance minister, has been to send out this message that we will avoid a downgrade at any cost. We will do what it takes to avoid a downgrade. And that message has come through clearly. What is not dealt with yet sufficiently is how are we going to get growth and investment in this economy? And those are not merely accounting issues. Those are structural issues. How are we going to challenge the problems of low investment in the economy, low savings in the economy, the blockages that are taking place in the capital markets, the labor markets, anti-competitive behavior, the underperforming state-owned enterprises, service delivery weaknesses, corruption, wastage. More needs to be done. But I think the first priority was for him to get the macroeconomic balances in place to say to the world, we are planning to avoid debt, avoid borrowing, and avoid a downgrade. But you're quite right. There's still much to be done, because the most devastating piece of information was the fact that the budget is projecting that South Africa will grow the GDP at 0.9%. Some are projecting less than that. The effect of that, Kathy, is that we as South Africans on average will have a falling GDP per capita, meaning we are all getting poorer. If you take that GDP growth rate divided by the population growth rate, we are all getting poorer over the next year. So something has to be done to pull us out of this very low growth trap.
All right, Kenneth, that's where we're going to leave it for this morning. Kenneth Creamer, he's from Wits University, the School of Economics, speaking to us on the Finance Minister's speech yesterday. We're going to take a short break, more analysis when we continue. Stay with us.